The Galactic Council had seen thousands of species rise and fall across the spiral arms of the Milky Way. They had witnessed civilizations that could bend space-time, races that communicated through quantum entanglement, and beings that existed as pure energy. But in all their eons of existence, they had never encountered anything quite like humanity. Admiral Kess stood before the vast viewing screen aboard the flagship Eternal Resolve, watching the blue-white marble of Earth rotate slowly in the darkness. The human homeworld appeared deceptively peaceful from this distance, its swirling clouds and gleaming oceans betraying nothing of the chaos that had erupted across the galaxy in the past 3 cycles. "Status report," Kess commanded, his voice carrying the weight of authority that had seen him through 70 successful pacification campaigns. Commander Vale, his second-in-command, consulted her datapad with practiced efficiency. "The human fleet has taken positions around their primary moon. Intelligence suggests they have fortified every major asteroid in their system. Their ships ... She paused, a note of uncertainty creeping into her voice. "Their ships are primitive by our standards, but they're using them in ways we've never seen." Kess nodded grimly. The humans had been discovered only 5 cycles ago, a young species that had barely mastered faster-than-light travel. By all accounts, they should have been easy to integrate into the Council's sphere of influence. Most species, when faced with the combined might of 800 civilizations, chose peaceful submission. It was logical. It was survival. Humanity had chosen war. "Sir," Vale continued, "we're receiving another transmission from their leadership. The same message they've been broadcasting for the past 2 days." "Play it," Kess ordered. The central display flickered, and the face of a human appeared. The creature was unremarkable by galactic standards: bilateral symmetry, 2 eyes, basic respiratory system. But there was something in those eyes that made even veteran council officers uncomfortable. The human identified itself as President Lee of the United Earth Federation. "This is our response to your ultimatum," the human said, its voice steady. "Despite facing impossible odds, we will not surrender our sovereignty. We will not abandon our colonies. We will not bow to any authority that demands we sacrifice our freedom for your version of peace. If you want our worlds, come and take them." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Kess had heard similar defiance before, but it usually came from species with at least some hope of victory. The humans possessed no such hope. Their technology was centuries behind Council standards. Their fleet numbered in the hundreds while the Council commanded millions. Their population was a mere 8 billion souls, scattered across a dozen worlds, and yet they prepared to fight a war they could not win. "Admiral," Vale spoke quietly, "perhaps we should consider." "No." Kess's voice cut through the air like a blade. "The Council's decision is final. This species will submit or be eliminated. They've made their choice." But even as he spoke those words, Admiral Kess found himself troubled by something he couldn't quite identify. In his long career, he had seen courage, defiance, even nobility in the face of defeat. This felt different. The humans weren't just choosing death over surrender. They were choosing it with a conviction that suggested they truly believed they were right. Every great bond starts with a single moment of courage. HFY Chronicle Stories is just beginning, and your support matters. If you love emotional sci-fi tales, forbidden connections, and stories that stay with you, hit subscribe. It's free, and it helps us bring more stories from the stars to you. As the Eternal Resolve adjusted its position for the coming assault, Kess wondered if the Council had finally encountered something they didn't understand. In all their wisdom and experience, they had categorized every form of resistance, every type of species, every possible outcome of first contact. Humanity seemed to defy those categories. The Admiral's contemplation was interrupted by an urgent alert from the sensor. "Station. Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures from the human fleet. They're moving into attack formation." Kess almost smiled. Even now, facing annihilation, the humans were taking the initiative. It was admirable in its way. Futile, but admirable. "All ships, prepare for engagement," he commanded. "Let's end this quickly." The battle began at 0800 hours ship time, when the human fleet launched their first wave of attacks. From the observation deck of the Eternal Resolve, the conflict looked like fireflies dancing in the void brief. Flashes of light as weapons discharged and shields absorbed the impact. Admiral Kess watched the tactical display with growing confusion. The humans were not fighting the way the Council strategists had predicted. Instead of forming defensive lines or attempting to protect their key installations, they were scattered across the system in seemingly random patterns. Their ships moved erratically, using gravity wells and asteroid fields in ways that violated every principle of space combat the Council had developed over millennia. "Sir," Commander Vale reported, her voice tight with concentration, "we're taking casualties. The humans are using some kind of kinetic weapon system we haven't seen before." "Explain," Kess demanded. "They're launching unpowered projectiles, chunks of metal and rock, but they're accelerating them to incredible velocities using their ship's engines. When they impact our shields, the energy transfer is—" She paused, consulting her readings. "It's actually causing shield resonance failures." Kess felt a chill run down his spine. The humans were using physics itself as a weapon, turning the fundamental forces of the universe against technology that had been perfected over eons. It was crude, inefficient, and absolutely brilliant. "Tactical assessment?" he asked. "Their strategy appears to be attrition-based. They're not trying to win individual engagements. They're trying to make us pay for every meter of space we advance." Through their system, the battle raged for 18 hours. The Council forces, despite their overwhelming technological advantage, found themselves constantly adapting to new tactics. The humans used their knowledge of their own solar system. Like a master musician played an instrument. They turned asteroid fields into minefields, used solar radiation to mask their signatures, and employed gravitational slingshot, maneuvers that pushed their primitive ships to speeds that should have torn them apart. But it was more than just tactical innovation that gave the Council forces pause. It was the humans themselves. Every ship that was destroyed, every station that was overrun, every last stand that ended in obliteration, the humans faced it all with the same inexplicable determination. They didn't retreat when retreat would have saved lives. They didn't surrender when surrender would have saved their species. They fought as if the very act of resistance was more important than survival itself. "Admiral," Vale's voice carried, a note of something Kess had never heard from her before doubt. "I'm receiving reports from across the fleet. Our casualty rates are ... significant. The humans are making us pay for every victory." Kess nodded, but his attention was focused on something else. Throughout the battle, human ships had been broadcasting on open channels. Not tactical communications, those were encrypted beyond Council ability to decode, but something else entirely. Music, poetry, personal messages between family members. Stories. One transmission had caught his attention in particular. It was a human child, perhaps 6 or 7 years old by their development standards, singing a simple song. The words were incomprehensible, but the melody was hauntingly beautiful. The child was aboard one of the human colonies that had been evacuated deeper into their system, and somehow, impossibly, the transmission had reached every ship in the human fleet. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a general broadcast from the human fleet. All ships, all frequencies." "Put it through," Kess ordered. This time, it wasn't a government official or military commander. It was an ordinary human, a woman who appeared to be standing in what looked like a civilian shelter. Behind her, Kess could see hundreds of other humans, young and old, from various ethnic backgrounds, all looking directly into the camera with the same unwavering resolve. "My name is Anna," the woman said. "I'm a teacher from New Geneva Colony. I want you to know that we're not afraid. We know what you're capable of. We know that you could destroy our worlds with a thought, but we also know something you don't." She paused, and in that moment, Kes realized that every human in the background was singing the same song he had heard from the child earlier. Their voices joined together in a harmony that seemed to transcend the chaos of battle. "We know that some things are worth dying for," Anna continued. "Our children deserve to grow up free. Our worlds deserve to chart their own course among the stars, and our species deserves to face the universe on our own terms, not as subjects of a council that views us as nothing more than another problem to be solved." The transmission ended, but the song continued on other frequencies, carried by voices across the human fleet and civilian populations alike. It was becoming an anthem, a declaration that even in the face of annihilation, humanity would not be silenced. By the end of the second day, Admiral Kes found himself in an unprecedented situation. The Council forces had achieved every tactical objective they had set. They controlled the outer system, had neutralized the human defensive networks, and were advancing steadily toward Earth itself. By every measure that mattered to the Galactic Council, the war was won. Yet Kes felt no satisfaction in victory. If anything, he felt a growing sense of unease that had nothing to do with casualty reports or strategic assessments. The humans continued to fight with the same determination they had shown from the beginning, but something had changed in their communications. The desperate broadcasts, the personal messages, the defiant speeches, they were evolving into something else entirely. The humans were documenting everything. Every battle, every loss, every moment of courage was being recorded and transmitted. Not just within their fleet, but beyond their solar system. "Commander Vale," Kes called out during a brief lull in the fighting, "what are the humans doing with all these transmissions? Who are they broadcasting to?" Vale consulted her instruments, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Sir, they're using a wide-spectrum approach. Some signals are directed at their own ships and colonies, but others—" She paused, running the data through the computer again. "Others are being broadcast to every inhabited system within 50 light years. They're telling their story to anyone who will listen. Their story? The story of their resistance. They're not just fighting us, Admiral. They're creating a record. A testament to what they stood for and why they chose to fight." Kes stared at the tactical display, watching the small icons representing human ships continue their impossible dance of defiance. He had commanded the pacification of species that possessed technology centuries beyond human achievement. He had faced fleets that could manipulate matter at the quantum level. He had stood victorious over civilizations that had existed for millions of years. None of them had ever done this. "Sir," the communications officer interrupted his thoughts, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Council. They're requesting a status report." The main display shifted to show the familiar angular features of Counselor Prime Thane, the Keithian who oversaw all pacification operations. His expression was as impassive as ever, but Kes detected a subtle tension in his posture. "Admiral Kes," Thane's voice carried the authority of 800 worlds. "The Council requires clarification regarding the duration of this operation. Initial projections suggested completion within 12 hours. It has now been 48 hours. The humans are resourceful, Counselor Prime. Their resistance has proven more organized than anticipated. Resistance is irrelevant. Outcome is predetermined. You will complete the pacification within the next 24 hours, or alternative measures will be implemented." Kes knew what alternative measures meant. Planet killers. Weapons that could crack worlds like eggs and reduce entire civilizations to cosmic dust. The Council had used them before, though sparingly, and always as a last resort. Understood. Counselor Prime. The transmission ended, leaving Kes alone with his thoughts and the weight of what was coming. He could complete the pacification. His forces were more than capable of overwhelming the remaining human defenses. But the thought of it filled him with something he had never experienced in his long military career: shame. Admiral, Vale approached him quietly. There's something else you should see. The humans have been broadcasting continuously for the past 6 hours, but their latest transmission is ... different. Show me. The display shifted to show the interior of what appeared to be a human command center. But instead of military personnel, it was filled with children. Hundreds of human children, ranging from infants to adolescents, all looking directly into the camera with an innocence that struck Kes like a physical blow. One child, a girl who couldn't have been more than 10 years old, stepped forward. When she spoke, her voice carried a clarity and conviction that made hardened council officers stop their work to listen. "My name is Hope," she said simply. "I know that sounds like a made-up name, but it's real. My parents gave it to me because they said I was born when they needed hope the most. I want to tell you something that the grown-ups might not understand." She paused, looking directly into the camera with eyes that seemed far older than her years. "We're not fighting because we hate you. We're fighting because we love something more than we fear you. We love our freedom. We love our families. We love the idea that somewhere among the stars, there might be others who understand that some things are worth any sacrifice." The child's words hung in the air like an accusation. Around the command center, Kes noticed that his officers had stopped their work entirely. Even the most hardened veterans were staring at the screen with expressions of profound discomfort. "You have ships that can destroy suns," Hope continued. "You have technology we can't even imagine. You have the power to make us disappear from the universe as if we never existed. But you can't make us stop being human. And being human means that we will always choose to stand up for what we believe in, even when standing up means we might fall." The transmission ended, but its impact lingered like a weight in the ship's recycled air. The final assault on Earth began at dawn ship time. Admiral Kes watched from the bridge of the Eternal Resolve as the combined might of the Council fleet moved into position around humanity's homeworld. The blue-white sphere hung before them like a jewel, its beauty unmarred by the approaching destruction. The human fleet had made its last stand at the edge of Earth's gravity well. Fewer than 100 ships remained from the thousands that had initially opposed the Council's advance. They were battered, many showing signs of improvised repairs, but they maintained their formation with the same stubborn determination that had characterized their entire resistance. "Final communication from the human fleet, Admiral," the communications officer reported. Kes nodded. He had been expecting this, a final plea for mercy perhaps, or a last desperate attempt at negotiation. Instead, what appeared on the main display was a simple message, transmitted in text rather than voice. "To whoever finds this record, we were here, we mattered. We chose our path with open eyes and willing hearts. Remember us not as victims, but as free beings who refuse to surrender their dignity to power. Tell the universe that humanity died as it lived standing up." The message was signed not by political leaders or military commanders, but by ordinary humans. Teachers, farmers, engineers, artists. Thousands of names scrolled across the display, each one representing a life that had chosen defiance over survival. "Sir," Commander Vale approached hesitantly, "the fleet is in position. All weapons are charged and ready. We're awaiting your order." Kes stared at the tactical display, where the tiny icons representing human ships continued their hopeless vigil around their homeworld. With a single command, he could end this entire chapter of galactic history. The Council would add another success to their records, and the galaxy would continue its orderly progress toward their vision of perfect peace. But something had changed in Admiral Kess during these 3 days of warfare. He had seen species surrender out of pragmatism, submit out of fear, and capitulate out of exhaustion. He had never seen anything like humanity's response to overwhelming force. "Admiral," Vale prompted. "Delay the order," Kess said quietly. "Sir," I said, "delay the order. I need to ... He paused, struggling with words that had never seemed necessary before. "I need to think." The bridge fell silent, except for the gentle hum of ship systems. Kess found himself remembering something from his youth, before he had joined the Council military, before he had seen the galaxy's vast emptiness filled with the ordered precision of Council rule. His own species, the Mallory, had once faced a similar choice. Not from the Council, they had joined willingly, but from another threat entirely. He had been too young to understand the politics of it, but he remembered his grandfather's stories about the time before the Council, when individual species had to make impossible choices between survival and principle. His grandfather had spoken of it as a golden age, when every decision mattered because every decision carried the weight of genuine consequence. "Sir," the communications officer interrupted his reverie, "we're receiving an incoming transmission. It's not from the human fleet, it's coming from ... everywhere." "Explain." "The signal is being broadcast simultaneously from 17 different sectors. It appears to be a response to the human transmissions that have been propagating throughout this region of the galaxy for the past 3 days." Kess felt a chill run down his spine. "Put it through." The display shifted to show not one species, but dozens. Beings from across the known galaxy, representatives of civilizations that Kess recognized as Council members, appeared in a split-screen arrangement. But their expressions were unlike anything he had ever seen in Council communications. Where there should have been calm efficiency, he saw agitation. Where there should have been unified purpose, he saw division. The first to speak was a Nexari diplomat, her crystalline features reflecting the light and patterns that indicated deep emotional disturbance. "Admiral Kess, this is Counselor Vera of the Nexari Collective. We have been monitoring the human transmissions, and we formally request clarification of the pacification parameters." Before Kess could respond, another voice joined the conversation. A Thenari general, his scarred features set in an expression of unmistakable disapproval. "The Thenari warrior. Clans echo this request. The human resistance has demonstrated honor that demands recognition under the galactic codes of conduct." More voices joined in, creating a cacophony of concern that Kess had never heard in all his years of service. Species after species, civilization after civilization, all expressing the same fundamental question: was the Council's vision of peace worth the price of humanity's extinction? "Counselors," Kess began, but he was interrupted by a new voice, one that made every being in the transmission fall silent. Counselor Prime Thane appeared on the display. His angular features set an expression of cold authority. "This communication is terminated. Admiral Kess, you will proceed with pacification immediately. The Council's decision is final." The transmission ended, leaving Kess alone with his fleet and the impossible weight of choice. Admiral Kess stood in the observation deck of the Eternal Resolve, looking out at the stars that stretched endlessly beyond Earth's system. Behind him, the bridge crew waited for orders that would determine the fate of an entire species. Before him, the last human ships maintained vigil, their formation unbroken, despite everything they had endured. He had been a soldier for most of his life, had served the Council's vision of galactic peace with unwavering dedication. The mathematics of it had always been simple. The needs of the many outweighed the needs of the few. Order was preferable to chaos. Unity was stronger than division. The Council's way was the only way that made sense in a galaxy filled with countless species and infinite potential for conflict. But the humans had changed the equation. "Sir," Commander Vale approached quietly, Counselor Prime Thane is requesting an immediate response. The fleet commanders are asking for confirmation of the pacification order. Kess nodded slowly, his decision crystallizing with each passing moment. He walked to the communications console and activated the ship-wide intercom, knowing that his words would be heard not just by his own crew, but by every ship in the Council fleet. "This is Admiral Kess to all Council forces," he began, his voice carrying the authority of decades of command. "Stand down from attack positions. I repeat, all ships stand down." The bridge erupted in confused murmurs, but Kess raised his hand for silence. He activated the external communications array, broadcasting on all frequencies to both the human fleet and the Watchin galaxy beyond. "This is Admiral Kess of the Galactic Council fleet to all vessels and all civilizations within range of this transmission. After 3 days of conflict with the human species, I am issuing the following statement." He paused, knowing that his next words would either save a species or end his career, possibly both. "The Council dispatched this fleet to bring humanity into compliance with galactic law. We came expecting to find another species that would choose survival over principle, as is logical and rational. Instead, we found something that the Council's extensive databases and millions of years of experience had not prepared us for. A species that valued its freedom more than its continued existence." In the tactical display, Kess could see the human ships beginning to shift position, as if they couldn't quite believe what they were hearing. "In our 3 days of conflict, humanity has demonstrated something that the galaxy has forgotten, that there are principles worth dying for. They have reminded us that peace without freedom is merely slavery dressed in prettier clothes. They have shown us that true strength isn't measured in the power to destroy, but in the courage to stand for what you believe in, regardless of the consequences." The communication channel crackled with incoming transmissions from across the fleet. But Kess ignored them all. This message was too important to be interrupted. Humanity has fought this war not with hatred, but with love for their families, their freedom, and their right to choose their own path among the stars. They have broadcast their story to the galaxy, not as a plea for mercy, but as a gift. To all of us who have forgotten what it means to truly live, rather than merely exist. On the display, Kess could see that the human ships were beginning to respond. Not with weapons or defensive maneuvers, but with something unprecedented in galactic warfare. They were broadcasting music. The same song that had echoed through their transmissions throughout the conflict was now being shared directly with the Council fleet. Therefore, by the authority vested in me as Admiral of this fleet, I am declaring the human pacification campaign concluded. Not through conquest, but through recognition. Humanity has earned the right to exist as a free species, not because they have proven they can defeat us in battle, but because they have proven something far more important. They have shown us who we used to be and who we could become again. The communication channel exploded with incoming messages from across the Council fleet, but the most important response came from an unexpected source. The human fleet was broadcasting a single message, transmitted in perfect Council standard: "Thank you." 2 simple words that contained more meaning than entire diplomatic treatises. Not gratitude for mercy, but acknowledgement of respect between equals. "Admiral Kess," Commander Vale approached hesitantly, "we're receiving priority transmissions from the Council. Counselor Prime Thane is demanding immediate explanation of your actions." Kess nodded, knowing that his defiance of direct orders would have consequences. But as he looked out at the human ships, still maintaining their formation but no longer alone in the darkness, he felt something he hadn't experienced in decades: pride in his choices rather than merely his victories. "Tell the Council that I will submit to whatever judgment they deem appropriate," he said. "But also tell them this: today, humanity taught the galaxy that there are still species willing to die for their principles. The question the Council must now ask itself is whether we want to live in a galaxy where that kind of courage is punished, or celebrated. As the Eternal Resolve began to withdraw from Earth's system, Admiral Kess realized that the war humanity had fought, the only war they had ever needed to fight, had indeed ended with a single transmission. But it wasn't the message of surrender the Council had expected. It was something far more powerful, a reminder to the galaxy that freedom, once lost, could be found again in the hearts of those brave enough to stand up and say, "This is who we are, and this is who we choose to remain." The stars had witnessed something unprecedented that day, not the conquest of another species, but the birth of a new kind of peace. One built not on submission, but on mutual respect between beings who had remembered what it meant to be truly alive.